All right, I'm gonna mauled a little bit about checkpoints in Season 2 dungeons. So throughout the history of Mythic Plus, checkpoints have been a pretty controversial topic between the players and Blizzard just in general. And players have always erred on the side of, I want checkpoints to be more easily accessible. I don't want things, whenever I wipe, to require a multiple minute run back. I want the ability to be able to release and make it back to my party. And Blizzard has typically erred on the side of, you're going to end up having a pretty long run back. And I feel like this has reached a breaking point this season, specifically in Season 2, with what has gone down with the checkpoint system just in general. And so I think that to explain the issue at the very beginning, I want to talk about an interview that Matt Villers had maybe a month ago, where he's one of the lead Mythic Plus designers. He stated, at a very high level, we want our dungeons to feel like places, and a part of feeling like a real place is that you traverse through it, not like magically teleport through the dungeon. Our baseline is that we would prefer to not have updated release points and have a more natural way to get through the dungeon. And with that being the case, there are a few dungeons that are that way this season, Halls of Infusion being one of them. I have a couple of things just to show you guys. Halls of Infusion being one of them, with natural checkpoints where you run down this hallway and you are able to skip either into the frog area or into the third boss area after you have reached a certain breakpoint. Now, this does require you to release at the very beginning of the dungeon if you ever want to release, and pull very specific trash packs to be able to even unlock this checkpoint, but there is a checkpoint nonetheless. Neltharis also has a door that you're able to lockpick that gives you a pseudo checkpoint as well. That's towards the Forge Master area. It's not like a massive checkpoint. Vortex Pinnacle has these natural slipstreams, and Underrot has also like a doorway that opens and is a natural pathway. And so what Matt Villers says in the statement, I mean, Blizzard has done. They have made their dungeons feel like a realistic place to traverse through, but it's not like you magically teleport through the dungeon. Now, this is a problem with the current state of how players play Mythic Plus, and I'm going to talk about why I think that this is definitely an issue as well. So first and foremost, I think that contextually, I understand it for like an M0 situation or for like a fantasy perspective. You don't want it to feel like your players are just able to teleport through it. You want to feel like a real experience, like you're doing the dungeon as a whole, and you get punished by it as well. At the same point, though, for how Mythic Plus is currently ran and operated, you are first off on a timer, a pretty steep timer as well. Completion is kind of important, and especially in specific spots where you end up having a full wipe. More often than not, your key is going to be depleted, especially if you're doing a key that's near the top end of your level. But even if it isn't, say there was an opportunity to run back, that's significantly diminished whenever you have things such as, Vortex Pinnacle is like the least egregious, but Halls of Infusion and Brackenite Hollow are the ones that, at least in my mind, come to mind by far the most. Brackenite Hollow doesn't currently even have checkpoints implemented, even though they were during the PTR for whatever reason. And so you have to run back all the way from the very beginning, and you see this background footage. This is our average Brackenite Hollow experience, where we wipe on the final boss, and now I am running all the way back so we can even have an additional attempt. And I think that the way that the game is currently structured with how players play, the way that you do checkpoints and the way that Blizzard has done checkpoints is unfun. And it makes dungeon completion a lot harder. It makes the ability to be able to like release, say you have 4 people that are still alive, you're not allowed to release anymore, because the checkpoints just as a whole aren't even at previous bosses. They're at like either the beginning of the dungeon, and you're expected to just wait for a res or something like that. That seems like that's not typical, because you're already being punished on one aspect in Mythic Plus. First off, you get punished by losing 5 seconds on the timer. Secondly, you get punished by losing all of your resources that you previously had, whether that be DPS resources or whatever, right? So you're already punished by wiping in a key in general or having deaths. And then they're doubling down on that by stating you're going to have to run back from a really far spot. And in a lot of these instances, in most of these instances this season, it is actually the very beginning of the dungeon. That, to me, is unacceptable. There is no reason that you need to run back from the very beginning of the dungeon. I think that the punishment is way too high. And on top of that, it ends up just creating this situation where players would rather zone out than run back 4 minutes to make it back to the boss. If you saw right there, I have been talking for 5 minutes in this video. I swear this run back is about 3.5 minutes inside of Brackenhide Hollow. That just is so unfun. On top of that, you end up like laying on the ground waiting for this one player to run back before they can res you. If you've ever skipped any trash as well, you have to have somebody with either a stealth or committing an invisibility potion to be able to make it back in that spot as well, which I'm less worried about that specifically. I'm more worried about the fact that I think the checkpoints are too punishing. My potential solution is just give us a checkpoint after every single boss, or if you really hate that idea, just do what Azure Vaults did and give us something like give us a teleporter. Even with movement speed like you get in Halls of Infusion or something like that, even now, that is no solution. It is still too difficult and too annoying whenever you have these deaths, and individual players not being able to release at all, in my mind, is a major dilemma. I hope that Blizzard fixes this. Overall, that's going to be the end of the video today. What are your guys' thoughts? How have you guys been enjoying the Season 2 dungeons? Personally, I've been finding them quite fun. I think that maybe on some levels, some of them are too hard. Maybe on some levels, some of them are a little bit too easy. And I'm probably going to be talking about that in like a future video. But I've been having a lot of fun. I hope you guys have been as well. And let me know about your thoughts about the checkpoint system down in the comment section below. Goodbye.